Let me tell you what social justice is, and more important than what is why. Why is social justice what it is? Initiating zombie sheep protocols, ladies, gents and Pikachus, welcome back to the show. A special edition today as we deconstruct and reconstruct the ideas of social justice, war and redemption. So I think I may have figured out where social justice and the social justice warrior movement actually came from and why it is prominent today. So I'm going to try and explain it to you. It's a bit difficult for me, so I've got some notes, so stay with me, but if you want to understand it, this is how it works. Right? First of all, you've got to think every single thing that you do or say or do not say matters. That's how I feel. But for a social justice warrior, nothing that you say or do matters. What matters is what people think of what you say or do. And that's why social media has become so prominent, because it's easy using social media to mislead people into thinking what you want them to think, rather than the judgment of what you actually did. Every single word you say or do not say matters to every single thing after that. Again, social media is a list in chronological order of things that you did or not do, but it isn't really, it's just how you want that to be portrayed. Fear encouraged by impatience will motivate irrationality, errors of judgment, snap judgments. Knowing that you made lots of errors, you will lie and cheat to cover up your guilt. Because guilt motivates shame, and for humans, shame and guilt are the most unbearable weights. Again, going back to the social media, guilt and shame, reputation damage, is the whole thing. And it isn't based on what you said or did, it's based on what people think about what you said or did, the reaction to a perceived thing you thought or you did, not what you actually did. Accusers must be destroyed thoroughly and with righteous fury to replace guilt and shame with pride, power and courage. Virtue is what that is, virtue signalling. Because as we know, it isn't based on what you do, it's based on how it's perceived. With pride, courage and power comes the expectation to fix the world of problems. Since you now have virtue, you have no problems of your own, you're courageous and proud and powerful. So people are going to look at you and think it's your responsibility now to go around fixing everybody else, and you have to validate that and justify that, otherwise you will get back to the shame and the guilt. So in order to avoid the shame and the guilt, you will start fixing the world of problems and everybody else within it. To eliminate all guilt and shame from the world through social justice and virtue, then you can stop and rest in your newly created perfect paradise. That's what they're aiming for. The dissolution of evil, hate, prejudice, discrimination, and the ushering in of the perfect new world, the paradise society, the utopia. Every single thing you say or do matters. And that's how the social justice movement came to be a thing. Because it isn't actually about what you say or do anymore. It's only about the perceived thing that you did or said. The reaction to the thing you said or did, and the evidence on the social media that proves what you said or did is true or false. But I go back to the first thing that I said. Everything you say or do, or did not say or did not do, matters. Now, if you take social justice and you take social media away, just imagine that the internet was switched off for a year, and all we had to go on was evidence of fact. Real behaviours, real life actions. Suddenly, to be a racist, you would need to have an actual real life victim. To be a sexist would be the same. You would need a victim. It wouldn't be a case of you said this and we perceived it as this, or we found a picture of you holding up this and it means this. No, none of that would matter. What would matter is what you actually did, the evidence in real life of your discrimination or not. And that is why they hate God and the people of God, holy men, Christians, Jews, Muslims, and they wish for us to fight and kill each other. Because our lives and our meaning comes from reality, the facts and the evidence, the victims or the friends that we make as we go through life. And we have to apologise and atone for every single thing that we do or say, even a look. Even a look at someone, or a choice to look away or not look at them at all, it matters so immensely, so much to us, because it's a real thing and it leads to something else, or it blocks the opportunity for something else. Whereas for the social justice warriors, they can never admit that they've done things wrong. They can never admit that they've had these judgment errors. They can never admit that they've previously been sexist, racist, or said things that can be construed as such. And it's easy on social media. You can just delete, hide the evidence, report. You can fix history with a few button clicks. And then you have your virtue. You're perfect. But of course, with perfection comes the responsibility that you're going to go off and fix everybody else's problems and create this perfect utopian world. And you will be at the top of the hierarchy, having done the work yourself. That's why they hate us. That's why they hate Jews, Christians, Muslims, righteous people, people with true virtue. Because there's no getting around it. The lie will not last. Unless you spend your life on social media, that's a place where the lie does last. And you can protect it with more button clicks. You can hide the consequences of your critics. You can even hide the critics themselves, like the Kumis like to hide me and my videos and my work. But notice, in real life, there is no victims. I haven't had a single victim in real life. That's why when I offered the lie detector test, not a single person took me up on it. But on social media, if I was to open any social media accounts, I would be snowed under with potential victims of my past that I had created through being sexist, racist, or some other phobe or ist. But the fact remains, here, in reality, in real life, there are 0 victims of mine to be found. And that's why there were 0 takers for my lie detector test that I offered. So, in conclusion, social justice in theory is a good thing because it claims it can solve everyone's problems without causing any more. It claims that it can offer you virtue and a removal of guilt and shame and make you perfect. It's kind of like how Christianity thinks that bending the knee to Jesus can make you sinless and perfect if you live your life in a good way and then die having lived it. Social justice claims to replace Jesus, but instead of having to wait your entire life and follow an invisible God and be constrained by rules written by dead people, thousands of years ago, no. Social justice says you can get your wash from sin today. Now, you don't have to do anything apart from put some social media posts on and virtue signal across the internet and help someone else get rid of the problems in society and usher in the utopia. So that's the real problem with social justice. Not that it exists, not the desire to do good and to rub out discrimination, hatefulness. These things should be rubbed out. No. The problem with social justice is that in real life it creates nothing but trouble and victims and makes us all animals. It makes us all hateful, discriminatory warriors. Social justice warriors. And there's only one way to get around that, and that is to switch this off and go out there into real life, recognise that you are sinful, recognise that you have said things wrong in the past, you've had bad errors of judgment and they have spurred you into irrational acts, and atone for them in real life. If you have made any victims, apologise to them. Try and make them understand that you didn't mean what you did or said. Or if you did mean it at the time, atone for that and try and change within yourself. Not on the pages of a social media, not in a Twitter post. Here in real life. And then you will have no guilt and no shame for today. Who knows, tomorrow you might trip over again, you might make another irrational anxiety-led judgment error, and you might create shame and guilt once again. After all, you're only human. But social justice is not going to cure your guilt or your shame or your sin. Not here in the real world. It just won't. So, I hope you enjoyed my little synopsis on social justice, the art of the social justice war, sin, guilt and shame, and redemption here in the real world. And I'll see you next time. How did I come to these lofty conclusions? Well, I read some books, I walked outside, I did some thinking, and I spoke to some people in real life, and I stayed the hell off social media. So try that for yourself. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.